greetings of the day. First of all, let me take this opportunity to extend my greetings to Chairperson of the day, Madam Pava. We are connected priorly too, but I am getting this opportunity to speak under her chairpersonship for the first time. So for me, it's a good luck day. The day begins with the blessings of the ma'am that I got this opportunity to speak before you. And later on, I would like to come to the topic directly, and at the same time, I would like to welcome dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. I am having Gulati sir in my presence from Delhi University, and sir, I seek your blessings too, friendly guidance, and we were having chit-chat that way. While talking about cultural studies in emerging scenario, let me go to the ancient India, and it is well said कि जितना पीछे प्रत्यंचा खींच के छोड़ी जाएगी उतना दूर तक बाण लक्ष्य वेदन करेगा. So let me start with a quote from Rig Veda that let knowledge come to us from all directions. And exactly the Richa is like that. Anu, Bhadra, Krantu, and from Vishwa, from Vishwani, and from whole world, let knowledge come to us. Moving to the cultural scenario and cultural studies through language, literature and media on the topic, I would like to have one small comment that yesterday was widely discussed and regarded about media. Media talks about reading the lines, but media never talks about reading between the lines. There is always a gap to explore that what is inside the lines, what is unsaid, and that is something big vacuum where all the readership fits in. For that purpose, when we start translating it into Hindi, that reading between the lines, what exact Hindi translation can be of this? So I translated it like that: शब्द विन्यास से परे भाव की खोज. And many a times I feel as a language teacher that language itself is not capable of, carrying the sum total of culture from one generation to the other generation. Then moving to some literary text to as the evidences of that, when we look into Ramayana and Mahabharata, I would like to go into the C. Raj Gopalachari textual presentations of Ramayana and Mahabharata, two ancient Indian epics, where C. Raj Gopalachari indirectly giving a commentary also on Indian society. As a critic also and in the praise of Indian culture, he says that at that time India was divided into 4 varna, and that was also there is no rigidity. One can opt varnas and varnashram system according to their own work division. Even in Bhagavad Gita there is a line Chatur Vardyam Maya Srishtyam Gud Karma Vibhagasha. But later on somewhere their rigidity came, and that rigidity came, I don't know from where, but in practice it was reflected highly. But still Siraj Gopalachari is giving a commentary over it that the practice was that mixed marriages was in practice at the time. When we realized that the daughter of Shukracharya was married to Devayani, was married to a Kshatriya king. And when that king, that young prince visited Shukracharya ji, then he asked the question that this marriage is pratiloma, not the anuloma. But Shukracharya said that we can discuss the validity of a marriage beforehand. And if the marriage is already solemnized, then there is no need of discussing the whether it was valid or not. Marriage is a marriage. So at that time, inter-caste marriages was acceptable. Moving beyond that, again here, Mahabharata, I look personally it as a tale of, a saga of a society's, destruction, where the society completely was demolished in Mahabharata and towards its end, the battle itself. But still, in preface to Mahabharata, Siraj Gopalachari writes that the main objective was of that to keep the status of women unlowered. So women can adopt the husband from all four varnas, they can take the life partner, but that permission was not granted to the male of the society, male member of the society. So it was again woman-centric and empowering the women at a time. But many a times when it comes to real practice, I look at the English language, and I would like to again salute the speaker, Ma'am Lucy, from the day one, when she was highlighting that cult and culture and Sanskriti. That talking about cultural studies, she said that cult is something that is segregational or apart, but culture is Sanskriti, is it imbibes all, it imbibes everything. We talk about the literature nowadays after 1960s, when we start looking at many practices like black literature in America, Dalits there, and even the convener of the program said that 1960s witnessed the cultural studies bringing, the seeds started from there. But 60s was in the British sense or in English origin, etymological origin as it suggests, that cultural study was looking at the part, not at the whole. So it was a cultural study, not the, Sanskriti. So cult was the part, looking at the part, and where we started looking at the thing. And the similar thing may be looked into the language study of the English language as particular, where we find that the carrier as the vehicle of the language, English was how incompetent, incomprehensive in the terms of particular words. Because there came a movement of gender inclusive language. Why was it required? Gender fair language, and then ultimately the present day. Many words, I would like to highlight a few words from English. See, before the advent of this mobile phone, cellular phones, there was no particular term for mobile. What was the term? Because of the technological advancement also, ICT was the term first used as a subject, as a discipline in 1995. It was introduced as a new academic discipline in USA, one of the US universities. But at the beforehand, in 1980s, there was an essay written by T.J. Gordon, the year 2050. He was projecting and looking at the future, that how will be the life of human being in the year 2050. Then he says that there will be a time when people will start carrying their cellular phones in their pockets, but the name was given Go Anywhere Telephone. To mobile phone, the name was given Go Anywhere Telephone. Then In future it came. For British people, where in the that you can say the cradle of English as a language, they were surprised and shocked to see Indians using a kind of gel for cleaning their hairs and a different kind of cake for cleaning their body. And we might be surprised to know that shampoo is an Indian word. Shampoo is a term, it was not from English, rather it was added to English dictionary. Similarly, we go and we can say that comparative Hindi-English culture, if you will look at the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary 8th edition, you will start looking at the alphabet M and meanings, Maharaja, Maharani, Maharishi, Mahayana, Mahaut. All these terms in bulk, you might be surprised to know that whether you are looking at English dictionary or Hindi dictionary. But there is only, very silly kind of experiment even they are done. See, Maharaja, we can say overlordship or something like that. That term is used for Maharaja. But Britishers and Oxford Dictionary was not able to give the meaning up to that size. So in order to demean the status of Maharaja, the meaning tells not a king, an Asian prince. The meaning of Maharaja is given over there as an Asian prince. So that way, regularly that transportation of the meaning and transferring it into the cultural, a kind of superior culture, dominant culture and subculture. That was in practice, and the connotation and meaning was utilized and used. So many times, and we realize that there is a line, Orientalism is a term used for, there is a line that used as a bin by the Britishers to term anything that is Eastern into, and they call it Oriental. But later on, then they realizing that all cultures, and right now also we are realizing all cultures are having their values, their significance, and for that purpose, I think there lies the significance, increasing significance of this cultural studies. Then I would like to, shampoo and was Indian. Then ICT came when in 1995, new term came, information superhighways. And then after using smartphone, in the era of smartphone, we all are in the practice that we keep busy ourselves in using smartphone. There came a new word, fubber. And fubbing is the term, the meaning of the fubbing is ignoring a person. This is again a new term added to English dictionary. Ignoring a person in front of you by favoring your smartphone. Means if we are ignoring somebody by favor of smartphone, we are using smartphone, and this is very much in practice in our, you can see this example in Varanasi house and homes, family groups, that young kids are very busy, they favor their smartphone and they ignore their family. Then there came, for gender study, new term came. We might be see a term hero. Hero. Why he? Why not she? If a woman is coming up front, what do we call Jhansi ki Rani, the Queen of Jhansi? Was she any lesser than a hero? What do we call? Again, the problem is in language. So new term is coming in the practice, Shiro, S-H-E, for then all inclusive. Because inside she, he is already embedded. Shiro is the new term coming into practice. Then there come, normally it comes as the, part of gender. He is expecting a baby. She is expecting a baby. That particular woman is expecting a baby. Why baby? Baby itself is giving male connotation. So what will be there? That may be any, any gender. Maybe male, maybe female, maybe third gender also. What can be the inclusive terminology of the third gender? So, beforehand deciding that she is expecting a baby, only, even in Hindi we call it कि उनको बच्चा होने वाला है. Why not बच्ची होने वाली है? Why not the third gender? Okay, I'll conclude. I got it, the idea. Then there comes the plural gender. A new term is to be added very soon in dictionary. They for plural, and then B part, and then maybe any gender, male, female, or transgender. So the term she is expecting a baby. We cannot, even in our expectation, the preference for male child, that should not be there. Then if we look at the whole word, we can look at it as a, in two context culture, high context culture and low context culture. When we call high context culture, there, what are you telling is important, but how are you telling is more important. What are you talking is important, how are you talking? So focus is more on how than what. And that is high context culture. Rest of the world is looking at like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Middle East as the high context culture, and other part of the country as the other part of the globe is as the low context culture. Where what are you telling, that means what. Then again there comes the, for cultural studies, we need to look at, what is my opinion now. I am concluding, I have been said, so I will be skipping a lot many points. But how do I look at these things? That don't look at the culture in different segregated cults. Rather, somewhere the attempt to inclusivity is supposed to be started and initiated. For having the inclusive look, we need to come here on the peaceful coexistence and cultural equilibrium. For that purpose, two metaphors I would like to share, that is platter of salad. As the different kind of, fruits are there and materials are there in a platter of salad of different color, they are existing together. That in the same way we should start existing on this earth, cohesively. Then there comes, no, there is not perfect amalgamation in platter of salad itself. There was a challenge. So there came the melting pot metaphor, another metaphor like ice cream. No ingredient can be separated from ice cream melting pot. Everything is unitedly coexisting. There comes the ideology of cultural, coexistence and cultural equilibrium. Moving to the ideas given by Malaviya ji and Mahatma Gandhi, this is October, and I would like to say cultural conflict also emerged because of migration and other things and other challenges. But here I would like to say, Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya ji used to say, and I am here in an institute affiliated to Banaras Hindu University, and as the student of that campus, it's my great, I am considering me lucky to quote here Malaviya ji in his own periphery, that he used to dedicate himself for the cohesion of all Hindu religion, and he used to go in villages and he used to visit Dalit residents and Dalit habitats, and he used to give them Guru mantra at the time of Om Namah Shivaya, like Guru Mukh karna, kisi ko Guru se mantra lena, and he used to visit without discrimination since morning till night, and he used to tell them the mantra of Lord Shiva, and that way he dedicated himself to this cultural upliftment and cultural unison and cultural amalgamation and cultural, holistic cultural development of India. Then Gandhiji, Gandhian view, Gandhiji used to tell, Malaviya ji, what did he did for Hindu civilization, Gandhi ji did for everybody. He used to tell that Gandhian view on education, if you read, I am quoting the book, Gandhian view on education, you will realize that Gandhiji used to say, when I look at India, and he mean the whole India, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh today. He said, when I look at India, I look at it as a temple where all educated, elite Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, Sikhs, Sindhis, they are taking the parikrama, pious parikrama of that temple, and they are residing together. It is probably the idea asking for a realization of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam by means of the practice of Gandhian ideology, where not the whole world as a family, rather whole earth as a family. Yesterday, one of the colleague from Poland, he said that there is a language of animals too. So when you look at Vasudha Eva Kutumb, the earth itself as a family, there will also be the concept of unition and holistic amalgamation of the language. Then we will start calling it not the extra personal communication, rather communicating with animals will also come into this compound boundary. That's it from my side. Thanks for providing me this opportunity to speak before the gathering, and I am really thankful to the Indrajit Misra ji and all the organizers and organizing secretary of this conference for having me here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh, sir, for redefining and reframing this concept, cult, cultural and Sanskriti. Your paper was really very interesting, and we would have liked to know more about it, but we will arrange a lecture some other time. Thank you, sir. Now, this session, as you know, is being chaired by Professor Meenakshi Pava ma'am. She is from Lucknow University. Yesterday we heard ma'am her lecture that was on water, wonderful lecture, and it really generated thought-provoking ideas among the participants. We were sitting there. So I'm very happy to invite her for her remarks for this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Esteemed participants and students. It has been a very stimulating session, and it has been an honor and privilege to be the chair. And what we gather from the two papers presented this morning is, I think, what sums up the realm of the critical inquiry of cultural studies. The first presenter of this morning's session was Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh, who presented his paper titled Cultural Studies in Emerging Scenario, Observations and Investigations into Language and Literature. And we finished with Dr. Rahul Chaturvedi's paper, which was Understanding Fandom. We look at the sweep of the area from observation and investigations into language and literature to fandom. So what Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh talked about, I'll briefly sum up his arguments for the benefit of those who may have walked in and sauntered into the audience a bit later than when he began, he talked about how media talks about reading the lines rather than how it misses the woods for the trees, and he spoke about missing reading in between the lines. And then he spoke about the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, for which he referred to the C. Rajagopalachari edition, and he talked about how women in those hoary days of antiquity were empowered to choose their partners, their life partners, from any varn of any of the four varns. They had the liberty, while men didn't have the freedom to choose from any varn, which brings us to reflect the kind of women empowerment women had in those days, and which also brings us to reflect what changed in between to bring the gap where the struggle is on for this empowerment to take place anew. And then he went on to develop another idea, which was part of his paper, which was to talk about the language. And he talked about the gender-neutral language, and in which he spoke about how there were also language biases during the colonial times, in which he spoke about certain examples, of which I will of course bring in one or two. He talked about how the etymology of the word shampoo is traced back to Hindi, and how the word Maharaja, according to the British, was not put into the Oxford English Language Dictionary as a Indian king, but rather as an Indian prince, because they wanted him to be subservient to the Queen of England. So the cultural transference was not given the privilege that it truly deserved in translation, and was given a word of subjugation on the contrary. And he also talked about the idea of Orientalism as a kind of a cultural dustbin, where everything was kind of pitted into Orientalism, which was, we all know, was well argued against by Edward Said in his seminal work, Orientalism, which was published in the year 1978, and we know that kind of spawned an entire new area of inquiry of post-colonialism, and that kind of marks that area of inquiry. And he also talked about the information highway, and he also brought in, and some of my students are sitting here, and brought into focus the portmanteau word of phubbing, which is a combination of the word PH from phone, P-H-O-N-E, and snubbing, S-N-U-B-B-I-N-G, and combined to form the word phubbing, which is nothing but a new term in social etiquette, which you're not supposed to pick up a phone when you are in company. But I think most of us are guilty of phubbing, which you're not supposed to be doing. It's part of the social etiquette now, and he brought our focus onto that portmanteau word. And he also brought into focus the word how hero privileged over the masculine word for years, and how Shiro's. In fact, the city where I come from, there is a cafe called Shiro's, which is a very, very hotspot place for the youngsters to frequent, and you'll be happy to know that it is run by acid survivors, and it's a very, very happening place. So he argued for all-inclusive terms in gender neutrality. And of course, we all are also aware that our present CJI of Supreme Court, Justice Chandrachud, has argued for and spoken about having a gender-neutral list for the judges, for the lawyers, to be sensitized for gender-neutral terms. And he also focused on the high and the low culture. He talked about the platter of salad when he talked about inclusion rather than the melting pot. And that kind of takes me back to the American civilizational history, where everybody who went to America went into the so-called American melting pot and came out as an American. But now, with so much of identity politics at play, everybody has a hyphenated identity, and that is why you have a Russian American, you have an Indian American, and a Polish American, and the list goes on. So from the American melting pot, where everybody was an American, now you have not so much as a salad bowl, but rather what they call as a rainbow, where everybody has a distinctive identity and needs to be reflected, and nobody has to sublimate it to be made into an American. The second presenter of the session, Dr. Rahul Chaturvedi's paper on studying fandom, talked about, by opening remarks of his were on the definition of Matthew Arnold about what he, Arnoldian definition of what was culture, and that which is, of course, which is refined, and how culture needs to be distinguished from civilization. And then he went on to distinguish, he spoke about Raymond Williams and Hogarth, and how they kind of brought about the Arnoldian concept and how it now stands challenged. And how cultures are outright political, rooted in, that's what they both argued, that they are rooted in the liberal discourse and rooted in exclusion. And obviously it deals with the political, since it's critical of existing political, social, hierarchical structures. And what Dr. Chaturvedi also developed and discussed at length in very, very lucid presentation of his was how cultural studies refrains from being judgmental and rests on the premise that each human experience is unique and hence different. And that obviously takes us from that there are no right and wrongs, and that there are no stances that we can take, whether one is right or the other wrong. And that, you know, also takes us to the basic premise of communication, where, you know, where they say that words by themselves have no meaning, where every human brain is unique and each word is processed according to each human experience. Therefore, the word by itself has no meaning. Therefore, the semiotics, it kind of intersects the realm of semiotics. And why do I say that? Because each human experience adds meaning to the word. For instance, the golden premise of communication is that two people can be right. And that's also the culture of communication. And how does that happen? Because, for instance, the word danger. To you, the word danger could mean going up in a high-speed motorbike or a car race, whereas to a couple who is committed to a biking or a motor race, they could probably dump the child and finish a race without even arguing that it is difficult. So he talks about the idea and problematize the idea of canonization of cultural studies and how culture can be dominant way of life or the non-dominant way of life. He also delved into the process of meaning making of culture and how it is inscribed in all processes and practical aspects of fandom. So it was a very, very enriching and a very, very lucid, both papers were comprehensive and lucid So thank you, and let's give both the presenters a huge round of applause. Thank you.
I would like to extend my profound gratitude for Meenakshi Power Ma'am, for Sudhir Singh sir, for Rahul Chaturvedi sir.